Welcome to the Rockin Wellness Podcast, the show that takes you on a voyage to better health, wellness, and happiness that will rock your world. With me, Rachel Joy Olson, your host, your coach, and your biggest fan. Hello and welcome to episode 6 of the Rockin Wellness Podcast. My name is Rachel and I'm very excited to be sharing today's information with you. So we are going to be talking about 5 mistakes that people make when wanting to lose weight, gain more energy, and have better health. This is such a huge topic, and there's so much information regarding these topics. And unfortunately, so many people are confused and struggle to see the results that they're looking for. Perhaps you are one of them. So I'm really excited to share this with you. I mean, ultimately, we live in such an amazing day and age, don't we? I mean, there's no better time in history than to live your passion and share your gifts with the world. But before any of us can be ready to step into our true potential, it's important to work on ourselves. So today is an opportunity for you to make the commitment and decide to care for yourself, to no longer look in the mirror and hate what you see. Now, women, I'm mostly talking to you about this because how many women take a look in the mirror and go, oh, I hate what I see. I know I did that for a really long time. I looked in the mirror and I was literally disgusted by what I saw and I hated myself. But it wasn't until I started to turn that around, that thought process of, all right, I'm not disgusting. I love myself. I look great. Right? So it's really important that we're no longer hating ourselves, but to love ourselves unconditionally. So it's important to no longer torture yourself with the latest fad diets that prevent you from eating the things you love, but instead eat delicious, healthy whole foods that nourish your body, mind, and soul. I had a conversation with a client just the other day, and too much of this industry, this health and wellness industry, when it comes to personal trainers and nutrition coaches, it's too much about calories. And when my clients come to me, they're surprised and yet happy because I don't have them slaving over calorie counting. What I do instead is have people count the different varieties of foods that they're eating, because food diversity, specifically plant food diversity, is the key to health. And there is much research to support that. So it's really important that we are doing what's best for our overall health. So too many people, women especially, are literally killing themselves with restrictive diets and excessive exercise to lose weight, look and feel better about themselves. So why are we doing this? Here's the problem. Many of these people are doing it all wrong, right? And I did for a really long time. You ultimately cannot force your body to change to get healthier with hateful thoughts and grueling activities. It just won't work, right? You cannot hate yourself into health. So in today's podcast, we're going to go over the 5 mistakes that people make, like I said, when wanting to lose weight. So many people, it's the biggest industry right now. I want to lose weight. So many people are looking to have more energy, right? One of the biggest reasons why coffee shops like Starbucks are even in business is that 2:00 energy slump, right? And of course, it's really important these days, and a lot more people are paying attention to just enhancing health overall and reducing risk of chronic disease. So what are some of the mistakes that people are making when they're doing this? And what can you do instead to get the long-lasting results that you desire? So it's time for you to step into your fullest potential, gain better health and wellness so you can better serve yourself, your family, your friends, and community. When you are living life to your fullest potential, you can be so much more to the people and communities in your life. All right, so let's dig right in. All right, mistake number 1, eating a high-fat, high-protein, low-carb diet. This is by far the biggest mistake that most people make. Now, in saying this, just a little caveat here, a little disclaimer. I understand that everybody is different. Not everybody does well on the exact same diet. But it's really important that people are understanding the importance of eating a proper balanced diet. So the high fat, high protein diet has been around for many years. I mean, I've been in the health and wellness industry for over 20 years, and it's always been, are we doing high fat? Are we doing low carb? Are we doing high protein? High protein, for some reason, has always been there. So following this type of plan, high fat, high protein, low carb, many people will have short-term weight loss for sure following this kind of diet, but it's not something that can be maintained for a really long time. And in the long term, many of these diets have been shown to have an increase of heart disease, cancer, and diabetes. So, some of the research that's coming up now is going, we're not as healthy as we think we are on these diets. So the problem with high fat, high protein, and low carb diets is that, number one, they're low in fiber. Any diet that cuts out or extremely cuts down on carbohydrates do not contain enough fiber. And as a result, people are chronically constipated and have long-term digestive issues. So really important that we are not getting rid of our carbohydrates. Now, I'm not talking about processed carbohydrates. Now, we can all live without processed carbohydrates, right? Our breads, our pastas, candies, cookies, cakes, all that kind of thing. But I'm talking about it's important for us to maintain our whole grains, our starches. We really have to have our complex carbohydrates, our starches, our fruits, our vegetables in our diet in order to have enough fiber. Another problem with these diets is they're often low in vitamins and minerals. Diets that are low in carbohydrates, again, are missing many essential vitamins and minerals, resulting in many deficiencies and long-term poor health. I often find it funny. I've had so many people say, well, I don't eat that much fruit because of the sugar. I've said to people, if you're still eating cakes and cookies and candies, but you're cutting out fruit, you're defeating the purpose, right? I can understand cutting down on fruit a little bit if you do have, a chronic condition of some kind that might, adversely be reacted with a high amount of fruit. But the vitamins and minerals and antioxidants and fiber that come from eating fruit are absolutely going to negate any of that sugar issue. And besides the fact, sugar coming from carbohydrates, if it's a whole food carbohydrate, the body knows exactly what to do with it, and it uses it for energy. The third problem with these types of diets is that they're high usually in saturated fat, and saturated fat is found mostly in meat, dairy, and eggs. It's also found in coconut and palm oil as well. And the unfortunate part about saturated fat is that it has been proven time and time again, there's definitely no negating this fact, that it increases the risk of heart disease. So any diet that is high in saturated fat is unhealthy. That's just the way it is. So ideally, even according to the American Dietetics Association, a healthy diet will contain less than 7% saturated fat overall. That's not a lot, right? Considering so many people eat probably 5 servings of saturated fat, and, really, I would say probably 60% to 80% of their meals are saturated fat, right? Because most people are eating a piece of animal product at every meal. High fat, high protein, low carbohydrate diets usually result in reduced performance, poor endurance, reduced strength, and increased stress on the body, and as a result causes greater secretion of stress hormones, which make fat loss very difficult. So if you are an athlete or an active person who wants to be fit, these types of diets will absolutely work against you. So I've been on them all. I've done all the diets, right? Essentially, I don't do any of the crazy new fad diets anymore because I found what works. But usually what I'm getting my clients on, increasing their carbohydrates, they're scared at first because of what, kind of mainstream has told them. And then they realize how much more energy they have, how much more the body is able to perform. And again, there's some details in there. Making sure we're not eating too much processed foods, but we shouldn't be eating processed foods really in general. So what can you do instead? Instead of depriving yourself of carbohydrates, try this instead. Eat more whole food carbohydrates, right? A diet rich in whole food carbohydrates has been shown to be the most effective to gain better health and lose weight. When the body is properly nourished with vitamins and minerals it needs, it will be healthier, and weight loss will just be a natural side effect. That's the cool part about eating a whole food more specifically plant-based diet, is weight loss is ultimately just a side effect. You hardly even have to try anymore when you realize you can essentially eat as many vegetables as you want and still lose weight and have energy. It's pretty cool because you start to realize how much more food you can eat if you're somebody who enjoys to eat like I do. Next one is eat more fruits and vegetables. Fruits and vegetables are a wonderful source of healthy carbohydrates. They're rich in vitamins and minerals and high in fiber to support healthy digestion, as we talked about already. Eating more whole grains. So unfortunately, whole grains have gotten a really bad name. And I think it's unfortunate. In a lot of the research that I've been reading, it's showing that, people who are reducing their intake of whole grains, right? The whole grains, including a whole, let's say, ancient grains, your quinoa, buckwheat, sorghum, even corn if it's from an organic source, even wheat if it's from a good organic source, your brown rice, your black rice, wild rice, things like that. These whole grains are a great source of fiber, vitamins, minerals, and protein. So if we're cutting out that entire group of food, we're missing out on vitamins and minerals that are specific to those foods that our body really, really needs. So it's important to eat those foods as well. And number 4, which in my opinion is one of the more important, is to eat more legumes. So legumes include beans, lentils, and peas. These are an excellent source of fiber, vitamins, minerals, and protein. When you look at soy, and again, soy is another one, that's going to be in another podcast because that could handle hours and hours of discussion. But soy, unfortunately, has been given a bad name as well, which I really don't understand. I think it's, from what I've heard, it's been the agricultural industry that's given soy a bad name. But soy is a complete plant-based protein. It does not negatively affect estrogen like people think that it does. It actually has a positive effect on the body. So as long as you're eating non-genetically modified organic soy, it's extremely healthy for you. So I can't wait to share a little bit more of the research on soy with you in another podcast. So let's move on to mistake number 2. Mistake number 2 is doing too much high-intensity exercise. Of course, high-intensity exercise is awesome and has really great results. But many people think that the more they exercise, the better results they will get. And this is not always the case. There is a really fine line between too much and too little exercise. Of course, we know that regular exercise is extremely important to burn calories and fat, reducing fat mass, build endurance, strength, build bone mass. Exercise, of course, is important in increasing flexibility and reducing our risk of disease. But despite the many benefits of exercise, too much high-intensity exercise can work against you and prevent you from reaching your goals. So when you exercise, we've got a sympathetic nervous system. This is our fight or flight response. So when we exercise, this is turned on and the body is placed under stress. So the body doesn't know that this is good stress or bad stress. To the body, this is just stress. So the muscle and connective tissues break down and stress hormones like cortisol are released. Now, temporarily, these are not bad things. However, when you do not allow the body to rest and recover adequately, the body will begin to break down and go into protective mode. Okay, so what is protective mode? Protective mode usually is hang on to as much body fat as possible because I could be in danger and need it, right? So our fat is our protection system. So as soon as the body doesn't feel it needs to be protected from stress or toxins, it will release the excess fat. Okay, so sympathetic nervous system, if it stays activated, cortisol levels never get a chance to clear from the body, and muscle and connective tissue never get a chance to repair. This results in exhaustion, low energy, weight gain, and many instances, injury that then takes you out of the game, right? So what should we do instead? So instead of pushing yourself too hard in the gym with high intensity exercise 5 to 6 days a week, for better results, do this instead. So number 1, you're going to want to cut down on the frequency of your exercise. Instead of doing high intensity activity for 5-6 days a week, cut down to 3 or 4 days a week. These other days you can do active recovery, which means you can still exercise, but you can just bring down that intensity a little bit. This will give your body some time to rest and recover between each session. You will notice a big difference. Number 2, reduce the intensity of the exercise session. So if exercise is something you feel you just can't cut back on, so if you're like me, I like to do some sort of exercise every single day. But it's important that we perform lower intensity activities about 2 to 3 days a week, right? It's okay to work out every day as long as your intensity levels are not at that maximum intensity level. It's just too much for the body. And it's really important for best results, so number 3, to take rest days. Allow yourself to take 1 or 2 days per week to rest or active rest. So on these days, you may choose to do a leisurely activity such as a low intensity walk, maybe a nice bike ride in nature or yoga, meditation. And these more kind of active rest recoveries will help the nervous system repair and recover, right? It'll bring that nervous system down into the parasympathetic nervous system, which is your rest and digest, and help the muscle and connective tissue repair and recover. So really important to have rest days. So yes, I am giving you permission to rest, and you will likely feel amazing once you start adding those in. All right, mistake number 3, not drinking enough water. This is one of the first things that I tackle when I'm dealing with clients one-on-one is water. A lot of the times, if weight loss or low energy or even disease is an issue for you, it's often because you're dehydrated. Water is an essential nutrient that most people don't get enough of, which of course then results in dehydration. And some dehydration can be more severe than others. So if you are dehydrated, you may experience these symptoms: dry mouth, dark yellow or strong smelling urine, low energy and fatigue, increased risk of heat exhaustion or heat stroke, stiff muscle and connective tissue, muscle cramping, constipation, inflammation in the body, weight gain, or inability to lose weight. So what do we do instead? Instead of sitting around and being dehydrated, make sure that you are well hydrated to get the best results. So you might be thinking, well, how much water is right for me? And that's an excellent question because everybody's different. We have heard of that kind of blanket recommendation of 8 glasses of water a day. Well, what does that mean? Does that mean a huge glass? Does that mean a little glass? Everybody's going to interpret that in a different way. So here's how you figure out exactly how much water to drink for your body size. So you're going to use this equation. So write this down or I'll put it on the show notes. You'll actually get an opportunity in the show notes to download this colorful ebook so you can print it out and actually have it for your reference. Okay, so visit the show notes at rjowellness.com/podcast and you will find the show notes under episode 6. So here's what you're going to do. You're going to take your body weight in pounds and divide that by 2. That's how much water in ounces you need to drink, okay? If you don't like the measurement in ounces, you'll take ounces and divide it by 8. That's how many actual cups you need to drink. Now, I think in liters because liters are what we usually need. So if you take your water in cups, divide it by 4, that's how many liters you need to drink. So the average person usually needs between 2 and 4 liters of water a day. Now, you will need to drink more water from that baseline measurement if you are an active person. So you're going to want to drink 17 to 20 ounces of water about 2 hours before the start of exercise. Then you're going to want to drink 7 to 10 ounces of water every 10 to 20 minutes during that exercise. And then drink 16 to 24 ounces of water for every pound of body weight lost after exercise. So there's a lot to it, right? So make sure you do download this ebook so you've got these numbers and information. Now, you're going to also want to drink more water if you ingest caffeine. So to prevent dehydration, if you drink a cup of coffee or any sort of caffeinated beverage that includes a caffeinated tea like green tea or black tea, you're going to want to drink an extra 2 cups of water for every cup of caffeinated beverage. Okay, and it can seem a lot for people, right? Let's say, for example, you're somebody who likes to drink 5-6 cups of coffee or black tea in a day. You need 12 cups of water to actually prevent that dehydration. And that's on top of your baseline water. So it's really, when you think about it, it's no wonder people are dehydrated, right? Because we need to have a lot more than we think to be fully hydrated. Another little tip in the water is I suggest adding a pinch of sea salt to your water. By adding, and that's not a lot, it's just a little pinch. You can't even taste it, right? So it's not like, we used to have to do saltwater rinses. My grandmother used to make us do that. And it's not tasting it to that extent, but if you add a little bit of sea salt, now it's got to be a nice pure sea salt, your body will be better able to absorb the water and maximize hydration. So for example, I was drinking 4 liters of water every single day. I was living in the bathroom and I still felt dehydrated. So I went to one of my mentors at the time and he had said, well, add a little sea salt to your water, and it's the sea salt that will help your body absorb. Because remember, we're not a fresh water system. We're an ocean, right? We are a salt water system. We need that salt in our body, that healthy salt, to maximize our hydration. And then the final note here on drinking water is drink filtered water. Filtered water reduces the risk of chemical exposure. Some people will say spring water is the best. Some people will say, just a basic filtered water is fine. Distilled water, everybody's kind of got their own opinion, but I think if you're doing your best by doing some sort of filtered water, you at least can reduce your risk of chemical exposure, because there's so many chemicals and other things in our water system nowadays that just do not do justice to our body. Okay, so let's move on to mistake number 4. This is not getting enough sleep. Many, many, many people do not get enough sleep, right? Due to busy schedules packed full with personal and professional commitments. So when you choose to run on little to no sleep, you may experience these negative side effects. Now, some people might say, oh, I'm fine. I don't need a lot of sleep. And they may have been able to adjust to little sleep, but if they actually got really good quality and sleep and enough of it, they would actually be able to function that much better, right? So sleep is extremely important. So some negative side effects of little sleep, number 1, reduced energy and fatigue, right? Cognitive impairment. You're not able to think quite as clearly when you're running on no sleep. You probably even experienced that at some point in your life. Increased risk of chronic disease. Yeah, you're at a higher risk. When you don't get enough sleep, you're at a higher risk of disease. Reduced sex drive, increased risk of depression, puffy eyes and aging, and weight gain. Because remember, when our body is under stress, and actually lack of sleep will turn into stress in the body. That's how the body's going to interpret it. As soon as the body goes into stress mode, it goes into protective mode, and excess fat on our body is that protective system. Okay. Now, when you do get enough restful sleep, you will experience benefits such as stress reduction. Your memory will improve. You will decrease your blood pressure. You will notice weight loss. You will have a stronger immune system. You'll feel happier. Your mood will be elevated. You'll have a decreased risk of chronic disease. Sleep helps the body heal and repair any of that tissue and any tissue that's damaged. You'll reduce pain and fatigue, and you will have enhanced cognitive ability. So, what to do instead of having no sleep? Well, to get enough rest and for best health, the goal is to get at least 7 to 9 hours of sleep each night. Research shows that getting 7 to 9 hours of sleep per night will provide the body with enough rest for best health. Now, you might find that you are unable to get that much sleep at night, and sometimes that's okay. But take short naps during the day. So if you're unable to get a full night's rest, take 10 to 20 minutes to rest once or twice during the day. It doesn't have to be, a full-on tuck into bed, but just close into the eyes and just rest the body and the mind as much as you can. So let's say even a nap isn't something that you can do. So as I kind of already mentioned, you want to just maybe take a few moments of stillness and silence. If you're tired and unable to nap, allow yourself to take these moments just to quiet the mind and the nervous system. So that could be as simple as placing the feet on the floor, sitting in a comfortable chair, closing the eyes, and focusing on your breath, right? Almost getting into a nice positive visualization or meditation. It's amazing how powerful just a few moments of stillness and silence can recharge your batteries. It's pretty cool. Next thing you might want to do, or you definitely want to do, is unplug. So unplug, shut off electronics, phone, iPad, computer, TV, at least 1 hour before bed, right? Electronics fool the body into thinking it's still light outside, and it can mess up your natural sleep cycles. Instead, read a book, right? A hard copy, a paper book, take a bath, meditate, and just really prepare for a good night's sleep. So many of us have such a wonderful morning routine, right? I get up in the morning, get ready, kind of brush my teeth, drink my big thing of water, take the dog for a walk, work out, start my day, that sort of thing. We got such this beautiful morning routine. And then the nighttime routine kind of seems to get, it seems to fall by the wayside. So start to develop a nighttime routine just as much as you have a morning routine. The final point here is to reduce caffeine intake. So if you reduce your caffeine intake, this will calm the nervous system and allow you to settle in to sleep much quicker at night. So that's especially for those of you who have a hard time sleeping at night. Just cut off the caffeine, maybe have your last cup of coffee by noon, maybe 1 o'clock, and then go from there. Okay, let's move on to mistake number 5. And this, in my opinion, is the most important thing to focus on. And it is the biggest mistake that people make. And especially women. I do speak to women because that's who I ultimately coach. But, a lot of people come to me for saying, I want to lose weight, my nutrition, I need help with my nutrition. I want to lose weight, I need help with my exercise. Right? And I'm like, okay, let's actually take a look at this. But what it actually turns out to, which is mistake number 5, is that people have too much self-hate and not enough self-love, right? You might be surprised by that. But self-hate is one of the most destructive behaviors people do to themselves, and it is one of the most common reasons why people do not lose weight. They have fatigue, low energy, and poor health. And I've been coaching people for over 20 years, and I've gone through this myself. Self-hate is very destructive. Unfortunately, self-hate usually starts in childhood after maybe a person has experienced a traumatic or significant event and the pain is suppressed. The ego works hard to protect this person, right? To protect you from this negative experience. But until you recognize and feel the pain associated with this negative, these negative feelings, you will experience negative consequences. So once you can become conscious of that traumatic event, once you can release, once you can let go of those feelings and move on with your life, until then, you may continue with self-hate and self-destructive behaviors without even knowing why. Remember, every choice you make is either an act of self-love or an act of self-hate. To recognize the intent behind your choices, just stop and take a moment to decide if your choice will take you closer to or further away from your goals. So for example, if your choice has a negative consequence, it is an act of self-hate. If your choice will enhance your health or in some way, have a positive benefit, it is an act of self-love. So you might be thinking, well, okay, what are these acts of self-hate? And, again, these are some of the things that I've experienced, some of the things that, I've seen in research. And unfortunately, acts of self-hate include overeating unhealthy foods such as sugar, fried, or fast food. So years ago, I used to be a major sugar addict. I could not go, I would say 2 minutes really without sugar. And if I did, I was shaking. I was shaking like I came off of drugs. It was unbelievable. But when I ate sugar, it truly was an act of self-hate. It was an act of somebody, me trying to fill a void of something, and I would eat and eat and eat and eat and then wonder why I never felt better, always felt worse. So overeating unhealthy foods is an act of self-hate, self-sabotage, maybe even another word. Hating yourself when you look in the mirror, extremely destructive behavior. I cannot stress enough how destructive that behavior is. So one of the first exercises I get my clients to do is, instead of looking at yourself in the mirror with disgust, or let's say you look in the mirror and you're like, oh, I'm so fat. You turn it around right away and go, stop, 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 which means you stop that thought process and you go, I look pretty damn good, right? And before you know it, you're gonna be dancing by the mirror going, damn girl, you look amazing, right? And it does work. And I know it because I've been there. So any negative thoughts about yourself is an act of self-hate or self-sabotage, and negative thoughts or judgmental thoughts about others. Usually when people are extremely judgmental of others, it's because they're extremely judgmental of themselves. So we always want to be taking a look at what are those thoughts that are going on. Are they positive or are they negative? Because it does reflect how you feel about yourself. Okay, so more of these acts of self-hate and self-sabotage, excessive drinking, taking drugs, or smoking. Okay, a little bit of alcohol, is not going to hurt you. Nowadays, more and more people are taking marijuana. You know what? I can get on board with a little bit. But again, it's the intent behind it. Are we doing these things to escape? Or are we enjoying a glass of wine just because we truly just love the taste of the wine, right? So it does depend on what your actions or intent is behind that. Another act of self-hate or self-sabotage is punishing yourself with excessive exercise, or on the other end, lack of exercise. Having a nice, strong, healthy, active lifestyle is important. But if we are exercising to negate the overeating that we did, that unfortunately is a negative behavior, right? And of course, lack of exercise, not taking care of your body, reflects how you feel about yourself. Acts of self-hate include unsafe or excessive indulgence in sexual activity, showing cruelty or hate towards people and animals. That is an absolute huge indicator of how people feel about themselves. If, in my opinion, if you're able to be, destructive or cruel to other people or animals, you don't have a good opinion of yourself, and this is where, when it comes to some of the acts of the world nowadays, many of these things would not be happening. There wouldn't be racism. There wouldn't be unnecessary killing, unnecessary cruelty to animals, humans, and the planet if more people actually loved themselves. Okay. And then contributing to the destruction of planet. So I just mentioned that if you are actively contributing to the destruction of the planet, that is a reflection of how you feel about yourself, and usually not a very positive outlook. So, of course, this is kind of an icky topic for most people. It does start to elicit a lot of emotion that maybe a lot of us have tried to push down, or you might be getting defensive right about now, saying, I don't do any of that stuff. That's not an act of self-hate. Take a look at that thought process, right? Is it an act of self-hate or self-sabotage? A lot of times it is, and I get it. I've been there. I was defensive and I was like, that cannot be true. Of course I love myself. But, when it really came down to it, I absolutely didn't. So what can we do instead? What can you do instead to really truly have your actions reflect how you think about yourself? So when you begin a daily practice of self-love, you will notice a huge transformation in your body, your mind, your soul, and your life as a whole. And like as I mentioned, as a health and wellness coach, this is the biggest topic that I help people with, essentially, is let's love ourselves. I'm going to get you to love yourself so much, and not on an ego side, but just on a confidence, self-love, self-respect side, so that making choices such as healthy eating, active living, isn't even a chore. It's just something you do. It's who you are, because your actions reflect the thoughts of yourself. So to enhance your self-love, try these simple practices. Number 1, spend time in meditation. This could be a simple sitting still, right? So sit still, sit in silence, and maybe just see what memories or thoughts come up. When these memories or thoughts or feelings come up, recognize them, feel the feelings, forgive yourself and everyone involved, and do your best to let it go. Right? So if you are holding on to something in there, let's focus on getting rid of it. Okay? And then, of course, forgiving yourself and everyone. Forgiveness is a very, very powerful act. The second thing I want you to do is start to look in the mirror. Every day, I want you to look at yourself with love, respect, and admiration. Tell yourself that you love yourself and that you, your body, your mind, and soul are amazing. You're complete and you're whole. This daily practice is a powerful transformational technique. Usually when people are feeling kind of that lack of love, it's because something's missing. They feel like something's missing in their life. But the cool part about our lives is that we can fill any of those voids ourselves. If you feel you want more love in your life, love yourself more. And then what'll happen? All of a sudden, you will attract a relationship that, you love and is amazing. You'll attract the career that is amazing, that your dream job, right? You'll attract friends and situations that are just so much more positive, inspiring. But it all comes down to how do you think about yourself is how you're going to act and what you're going to attract. Okay, the next thing you can do, eat a whole plant-based food diet. Plant-based nutrition will nourish your body so you can shed excess weight, gain strength, have better health, more energy, and clear thoughts. Eating this way will also allow you to no longer contribute to the destruction of the planet or animal cruelty and suffering. And I hate to say it, I was a meat eater myself at one point, but it wasn't until I really truly realized what was going on, right? And how my meat got to my plate. And then I started putting it together, right? This destruction and cruelty that's happening is low vibrational energy, and it affects everyone on this planet directly or indirectly. So just kind of think about the energy and the positivity and the negativity surrounding even the food that we eat. And the last one is make conscious, positive decisions. When you stay mindful, you will make decisions that will positively impact your life. Remember that each choice you make is an act of self-love or self-hate. So take your time and choose wisely with the thoughts and the actions that you do. Your life and the lives of others depend on this. So one of the quotes that you'll find in the ebook download is, love yourself enough to take care of your mind, body, and soul. Invest in learning as much as you can about how to make each aspect of your life the best it can be. You deserve to have optimal health and achieve your greatest potential. So thank you so much for listening to today's podcast. And until next time, my friends, keep rocking your wellness. Thanks for joining me on this episode of the Rockin Wellness Podcast. Make sure to visit my website at www.rjowellness.com, where you can subscribe to the show and check out all the show notes. While you're at it, if you found value in this podcast, I'd appreciate a rating on iTunes, or if you'd simply tell a friend about it, that would help out too. You may choose to join the R.J.O. Wellness community to take advantage of the freebies, courses, and coaching that will take your voyage to the next level, or support this podcast with your monthly membership. Until next time, my friends, keep rocking your wellness.